everything in this church rises or falls on the validity of that book. And there's a lot. Most people are just like I am. I really couldn't care less if we ever found any evidence that the Book of Mormon account was true, because my testimony that I received, specifically the one event that really changed my life in the MTC, has been. It's plenty sufficient to know that I know that the gospel of Jesus Christ is absolutely true, and I know that the Book of Mormon is true. So whether or not we find any evidence for it really is irrelevant as far as my testimony is concerned. But because I know that the Book of Mormon is a true history, it is a true book, there has to be evidence. There has to be. And the reason is because it specifically says that there was going to be evidence. Like, for example, it says that there will be a remnant of the house of Israel that will remain upon the promised land in the latter days. So that sounds to me like they're going to be a genetic remnant. It says that they would not be destroyed, but that their seed would never be destroyed, according to the flesh. Well, that sounds like a genetic remnant, and so forth. So that's how I got involved with what I'm actually doing now, which involves evidences of the Book of Mormon. And it's kind of like different people that I've talked to. Some people say it's just fine to just I can just read the Book of Mormon. I can ask about its truthfulness and receive a witness or have faith that it's true, and that's fabulous. But ultimately, which is greater, faith or knowledge? And prior to that experience in the MTC, I had tremendous faith that the Book of Mormon was true and that the gospel was true. But after that experience, I would have to say that I have now, at that point, I had knowledge. And people go, well, but which is more important? Well, I just remember this. That is when this young lad by the name of Joseph Smith went into a grove of trees, early in the spring of 1820. He had a tremendous amount of faith. But when he walked out of that grove of trees in upstate New York, he no longer had faith that there was a God. He knew him. He knew him. And that knowledge is what was able to carry Joseph Smith through all the trials and the tribulations that he was going to experience in his life. One of my very favorite sayings of Joseph Smith was when he said, "I knew it, and I knew that God knew it, and I could not deny it." He didn't say I had faith in it. He says, I knew it. And that knowledge, I think, is really what gave him the strength, to overcome all of these challenges and obstacles that had been placed in his lifetime. A lot of people have said, in fact, people who are not of our faith have said, when missionaries come and talk to them and so forth, and say, well, just read the book and then ask about it. And I've had people actually mention this. I said, how am I supposed to believe the doctrinal parts of your book if the historical parts aren't real? And that's a really good question. The Book of Mormon purports itself to be an actual history of real people and places and events and things. I think anybody that's read the Book of Mormon wants to know, where did it happen? And there's been lots of speculation, and the church has been officially neutral about that, more neutral over the last few years than it has been in the past. There's actually been images of Central America, for example, that have actually were placed in the Book of Mormon itself, but they've taken all those now out. And the church is becoming a lot more neutral on the issue, but some of the research I've been involved with has just been nothing short of amazing to me. To see how this works